and we are live, as you can see. The whole point is, how can you get out of the live stream without losing the live stream? So if you notice my finger on the left of the screen here, I'm just going to push it away. It's still playing. It says live, Iran war crisis, Donald Trump. That's awesome. Now I'm going to find the message. I'm going to look for Wajeeh Lion subscription chat. And in the subscription chat, you can put your question under We Are Live, or you click on the replies essentially, and you put your questions down there. Or you leave your questions here, not here. You leave it in the comment. Why is it? Leave a reply. Here you go. I have fat fingers. When you click on a reply, you can leave all of your questions here. In the meantime, I will just talk about today's topic, and that way I'll give you guys time to think about your questions. I'll give you time to write your questions. And when it's time to answer them, I'll go find them all there without having to go through hundreds of comments or thousands of comments. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, the Syrian revolution that began in 2011 and was inspired by the Arab Spring that started in Morocco, Tunisia, that started in Tunisia. How did the Arab Spring begin? It started with a vegetable cart, street cart guy who's selling vegetables in the street, and that's his only income. What happened next determined the next 10 years of Middle Eastern history, 15 years of Middle Eastern history. One day, this man was walking with his cart. He has been late on payments. His kids are hungry. His family's hungry. Mother needs medicine, cannot afford the medicine. A government pig decided to take his only means of living away. So this person pours gasoline on his body and lights himself on fire in front of the government office. People stepped in, government stepped in, fire department came in, the ambulance came in, took him to the hospital, survived for a few days, and the corrupt strong man of Tunisia, the dictator at the time, came to visit him to save face. But ultimately he passed away. And that ignited the fire that started the Arabic Revolution, the Arabic Spring that later became a winter. It's a long story. We're not going to get into all the nooks and crannies. But what I can tell you that the revolution moved from there to Egypt. We saw the dictator of Egypt, Hosni Mubarak, that was in office for 30 years, also lose his place. And then few kids in their middle school or even before middle school, they were inspired by what they have saw across the region. And they bought some can paint canisters. And they wrote some of the slogans that were very famous from these protests. Downfall of the government, the Arabic Spring, and so on and so forth. These kids happen to be from very big tribes, and tribes are meant not to be messed with in Arabia. So, the Syrian pigs showed up to pick them up and arrested them, even though they were only kids. So, not their parents, the tribal leaders showed up. And when a tribal leader is showing up and he's wearing the shmar, the red drape with the black thing off, and he takes that igal, we call it igal, the black bandana that is on top of the white or white and red shmar that you see and they're wearing, the Arabic leaders. If you take that off, it's as if you took off your crown. So the tribal leaders took off their igal and they put it on the table. And when a tribal leader does that, that means he's taking off his honor and he's putting it down on the table and he's begging for something. There's many things like that in the Arabic tribal culture. I can go over it later. So they took the egal, they put it down, and it was not one, it was few tribal leaders. And the head of the police department said, fuck off, in English, if I'm going to translate it. So they started protesting, asking for their kids to be released. Bashar al-Assad responded by using live fire. He told them, shoot them. So the rest of the nation saw that kids were being put in prison for no reason. Innocent people that came out and put their honor on the line and asked for the release of their kids were shot. So the rest of the country came out. What Bashar al-Assad did next was he went to Russia and he went to Iran. That's very important to understand. Iran have directed its proxies to join the war. So the Iraqi militias from Iraq and Hezbollah militias from Lebanon and specific militias from Iran all went to support Bashar al-Assad and his massacre for the people. And for 10 years, Syria did not see any peace. People who have never asked for this all of a sudden found themselves in the midst of conflict. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, respectable families, respectable tribes, people who have honor, people who have respect, people who have been raised well. All of a sudden, you have several generations denied education, denied health, denied social services, and found themselves desperate to flee the countries. Some were kids when they lost their whole family, including their extended family. Bashar al Assad used chemical weapons on his people and used gas tanks with explosive in them and would drop it on top of a whole apartment building. Many people have been buried there for years in their apartment building, and we still have not been able to get to them till today. Most famous human rights group in Syria was known as and still known as the White Helmets, a group of civilian volunteers who have dedicated their life to rescuing their neighbors, their citizens, and the weak. And even then, they were still targeted by the Syrian regime. I believe they won an Oscar. So it was surprising to the world when in December of 2024, the Syrian regime with the Syrian strongman Bashar al Assad fled Syria and ran to Russia. As Russia invaded Ukraine and as Iran was getting busy with Hamas and Hezbollah and the war in Gaza and the war in Lebanon, and they were being stretched thin, they both weren't able to come to the direct rescue of Bashar al-Assad. Bashar al-Assad military was drawn thin, so he fled to Russia when he saw al-Julani. I'm not gonna mention his current name. I'm gonna mention him by his terrorist name, Ahmad al-Julani, a member of Al Qaeda and a member of ISIS, and the person responsible of burning couple pilots alive in a cage. And you probably saw that ISIS video at some point in your life. So this person gathered his jihadi militia, armed with US and Turkish weapons, fighting the strongman regime in Damascus. City by city, they took over until all the special regime forces and security agencies also ran away or got captured. This has created a power vacuum that was filled quickly by Ahmad al Julani, that likes to have people call him Ahmad al Shah. He, as soon as he got in power, by the way, he started wearing a Patek Philippe watch worth at least $500,000. Somehow we got it as a gift from the GCC. He was designated by all Western countries as a terrorist with a $10 million bounty on his head, believe it or not. We know his crimes. We're not blind. It has been recorded. He's well known. He's not something that has not been uh, out of the radar of the intelligence agencies. But the Saudi government liked him. And also, Trump owed the Saudi government favors. So, because he owed the GCC nations favors, and because MBS told him, come, Habibi, come, Trump is over here in Saudi Arabia. Ahmad, come over here. Let me introduce you to my friend. Yes, my friend Trump. And Trump was surprised. He was like, okay, yeah, we'll meet with him. Why not? So he first met Ahmad al Julani in Saudi Arabia when he was visiting the kingdom as he became the 47th president of the United States. And that kind of gave Ahmad al Julani a blanket check of yes, we will work with you and we will ignore your black side of history and will mention you by the new name of Ahmed al-Shara. 14 years of civil war decimated the Syrian economy, where the World Bank estimates that the national reconstruction would cost around $216 billion. The isolated provisional government cannot guarantee this domestically. So, back in 2019, the Civil War began in 2011, just to put some timeline for you. The Syrian Civilian Protection Act of 2019 established a secondary sanction targeting any foreign entity providing significant support to the Syrian state, effectively locking Syria out of the global SWIFT network international capital, meaning you cannot do direct transfer to Syria. Syrian bank, national bank is no longer part of the international banking system. And remember how I was saying that U.S. sanctions have been pushing international countries away from the U.S. dollar and trying to find other currencies and other uh, banking systems to be a part of outside of the U.S. SWIFT economy. And, at that time, it was something, but now that has come back. Don't worry about it. The Syrian, the Trump, let me just get into it. The Trump administration issued a waiver General License 24 and 25 EO 14312 is this license number that Trump has signed in the mid 2025 after he met Al Julani in Saudi Arabia. This pauses the Syrian Caesar Act of 2019 only for 180 days. that could also be extended every other 180 days. So like you sign it now, 180 days later it expires, then you have to sign another one or extend it. And that basically takes away the secondary sanctions away from Syria. And that came with the Saudi blessings and came with the Trump administration blessings to lift those sanctions away. And I think that plays a really important part right now in rebuilding Syria. I personally don't have an opinion on that in particular, even though I'm against Ahmed al-Shara. The Syrian people will generally benefit from lifting these sanctions away, especially that the dictator has left Syria. Additionally, U.S. sanctions in particular, are responsible for the death of 500,000 people every year, mostly children. And while we get to this point, if you're enjoying what we are talking about, if you're enjoying the topic, please consider tapping on that heart button and sharing this podcast with your friends. This is important information that does make a difference in the general picture of the Middle East when you take a look at it. The bigger picture you understand, the more you understand of how the Middle East operates. I've always said it that people, if you bring a complicated equation and you bring an easy answer or a simple answer to this complicated equation, you have only complicated the whole issue. But if you bring a complicated equation and you solve it with a complicated answer that focuses on that equation, you do end up coming to an answer. And if you are not familiar with Edward Said and his foundation of Orientalism, I strongly advise you to read his book on Orientalism. Orientalism is a Western ideology that believes that they understand the Eastern world very well, and they have the answers for all their conflict issues. And with the past 200 years, 300 years, with that Orientalist ideology, the Western world has only complicated the Middle East further and further into more conflict because of simple solutions that have not considered all the complications of these complex issues in the Middle East. So the more you understand about the details, and if the more you understand about the conflict and the general picture, and then you understand the details in these big pictures, you have a better understanding and you can advocate for a better solution than what we have now. I hope that makes sense to you guys, and I do appreciate you. We wouldn't be here without all of you. We're almost at 300 people in the live stream. Yesterday we reached 500. Let's keep it going. So the corporate monopoly and the Khayyat family. The Khayyat family is a big tribal family, and especially in the region, in the Arab Gulf, and specifically in the Arab world as well. And the name means seamstress, just to interestingly, Khayyat, and it's pronounced Khayyat, not Khayyat. I don't know why it's written like that. Interestingly, the 11 billion dollar concession agreement with the aviation $4 billion. In November of 2025, because Trump was still the president, he used his family again. Remember how I talked yesterday about how the Trump administration has privatized the foreign policy department and started using his family members and his companies as a way of dealing with foreign policy instead of using the uh, seasoned experts from the U.S. State Department. So, in November 2025, build, own, operate BOO occasion to redevelop Damascus International Airport that will be having a capacity of 31 million passengers, three terminals, and five-star hotel. The UCC led Turkish firms and the Khayyat, and they went to New York based asset investment in the US. So Al Khayyat took advantage of the situation and he went to the Trump family. And then in May of 2025, mandate to develop the 5,000 megawatt of capacity include four combined cycle gas turbines plants and a 1,000 megawatt solar panel that is supposed to be built over there. And that agreement was signed with GE and Siemens Energy. Finalizing the agreement was in April 2026 to dual use turbines signed with an offshore explanation memo. Yeah. So all of this was signed with an offshore banking and offshore accounts, just so the Trump family can get involved. Also, they deal with the Khayyat. Khayyat is a half Qatari and half Syrian guy who is already a billionaire and already has connections with GCC nations. So he found it as a perfect opportunity to bribe the Trump guys to and convince the Syrian government I can get those deals from the Trump guys if you just give me the deal. So let give me the project and I will talk to the Trump people. We will build five-star hotel. We'll rebuild the airport. We'll probably have Trump whole five-star hotel in there. And you know, we'll put some money in our pockets and we'll all be happy. So the Hayat required a congressional repeal of the Caesar Act instead of having the 180-day extension. So Hayat now had to lobby the Trump administration so they could lobby the Congress and US Senate to repeal the whole Caesar Act. The whole idea of revising every 180 days is to see if the Syrian government commits any violations against humanity. Are they taking out minority members in Syria? Are they killing the Druze? Are they killing the Alawites? Are they only becoming a Sunni state? Or Are they becoming another dictatorship? The whole point was to make sure that that doesn't happen. The whole point of the 180-day extension is to keep Syria in line. So to establish this, like what I said, he made a joint venture with the Kushners and Ivanka Trump. So because the Kushners and Ivanka Trump was involved in this deal, the Syrian Caesar Act was appealed by majority of all the Republicans approved it, and I mean some of the Democrats voted for it, but then it was appealed just because Ivanka Trump and Kushner. And then Trump says, I don't have any business. I don't do any business. I'm not the CEO of the Trump company. Please. This transnational equity partnership created a shared financial destiny with the highest echelon of the U.S. executive branch, expanding executive waivers and congressional pressure. The pivotal lobbying event occurred on November 9, 2025, during the Al Shura's state visit to Washington, when the Syrian delegation of the Shura and the Ahmed al Julani came to visit the US, I believe. Following a bipartisan dinner, a late night meeting took place at the Saint 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 Regis Saint uh, Saint Regis Hotel, between the Representative Brian Mast and the primary operate of the. I'm translating this from Arabic. Give me 1 second. The primary opponent of the unconditional repeal. President Al Julani and the PIH executive Muhammad Khayyat were all in DC lobbying the Trump administration to lobby the US Congress to appeal the Caesar Act. The repeal bypassed the standard foreign policy debate and was embedded into a 3,000-page National Defense Authorization Act called the NDAA for the year 2026, Section 6211. I don't know if you know, but there is something very interesting in the US Congress. When I'm about to pass a bill, all of a sudden, any senator or representative can add at the end of the bill something that has nothing to do with the bill, but they want it to be passed. So the bill would be about car parts, and some senator adding some bylaws about how to make a burger at the end of the bylaws. It happens all the time. Something very stupid in your country that needs to be fixing in my future country, also my future country. Look into it. It's an actual thing. I'm not making it up. So how did this happen? How did they avoid the Foreign Policy Committee? How did they add all of those bylaws? How were they able to bypass the Caesar Act? They added it to the NDAA of 2026. It passed the Senate 77 to 20 and was signed into law on December 18, 2025, terminating the Caesar Act. Section 6211 requires the U.S. President to certify every 180 days, which they appealed. It used to be the Congress has to approve it. Now it's the U.S. the President. So we had the 180 days. Now it's gone. Now we're protecting ISIS instead of protecting minority groups. That's the short. That's the short. If I'm gonna be quick and simple, everything for you. There's a big contradiction in here. Months before the NDAA passes, the interim government engaged in systematic ethnic persecution after the Alawite insurgency. When Ahmad al-Julani took power, his military went on attacking minority groups, from Christians to Alawites to Druze, killed them, beat them, tortured them. But there was a business deal happening in the background between the Trump administration and the Syrian terrorists. On March 6, Damascus deployed Mi-24 helicopters and heavy armory against these Alawites and against these minority groups as well. Between March 6 and March 12, state security forces sanctioned massacres in the Alawite and the Shia in 4 cities. And there was 823 to 1,700 civilian deaths. And 51,000 people were displaced. The Syrian government stole agricultural land from 2,000 Alawite families. While the UK still imposes targeted sanctions over specific autocratic people in Syria, the US Congress has ignored documented ethnic cleansing and proceeded to pass Section 6211, prioritizing the normalization of the Syrian economy and unlocking the Khayyat consumerism contract where they are taking power. Sorry I made you guys fall asleep. I didn't mean to make it boring, but sometimes numbers are a little boring. What I'm trying to explain is that during the Trump normalization of the Syrian alliance between the United States and Syria, what happened is that there was an actual ethnic cleansing happening, and the U.S. knew about it and has intelligence about it and was documented, and they were informed about it, and they chose to normalize the Syrian economy rather than uh, having targeted sanctions on certain individuals. They could have opened the economy for the rest of the people, but certainly since the Kushners are involved and since the Trump family is involved in this economic deal, they have put their own self interest and they have put pressure over U.S. senators to bypass the most ethical, important thing about the U.S. economy, which is protecting civilians from consumer capital companies that will take advantage of people. And instead of us doing something about the ethnic cleansing, instead of us stepping in and asking for this to be stopped, we have took a blind eye and moved forward. And the Trump family continues to get richer, and all of us are paying the bills for that family. Now, I think is a good time to move into questions. Of course, they hide it from you. That's why I'm here. They hide it from you. That's why I'm here to make sure that it's not hidden anymore. I'm not the only one talking about it, but you may be hearing it from me first, from a lot of other people. There's a lot of paywalls on these news, important pieces of news. And the news channels that don't have paywalls, they usually have way more advertisements on them that will be taking time off of important news stories like this one. And they end up giving you news topics that is clickbaiting rather than news topics that answers your questions about what is actually happening and the connections are happening on the ground. There is an article that I shared yesterday, um, and it also shows it's a 40. I thought my articles are long. Her article is 46-minute long. She wrote about the connection between Jeffrey Epstein, Saudi government, and the Kushners, economic connection, financial connections, and dealings that are still going on today. Her name is Kate. I'm gonna butcher her name. Kate, no, her name is Kate Justice. I'm not gonna butcher her name. It's easy. Kate Justice. I reached out to her to see if we can collaborate. I'm still, she did reach out and said, thank you very much for reaching out. She's still learning a lot, but we still haven't gotten into anything about working together yet. So if you have any contact with her and you want to encourage a collaboration between us both, send her a message, give her a comment, let her know that there would be a good collaboration. Let her know that you'd love to see that type of collaboration. It kind of puts, it speeds up things a lot of times, and it lets them know that we have fans in common, and it kind of lubricates the whole system. I don't know if lubricate is the right word. I apologize. Um, let's go to questions, okay? Wow, there is a lot of questions today. Question: in addition to the example of how school children fight and the important history about the Arabic Spring and the Syrian tribal leaders, now that you are giving now, what is another of the most commonly misunderstood things that most Americans need to know? The other day, I shared a video of the Ahmed al-Shara, Ahmed al-Julani walking with the Amir of Qatar, and they were holding hands and talking to each other. Any Westerner looking at this would be like, "Oh, look at this! They're dating, aren't they? Isn't that cute?" But the reality of the situation, when two men hold each other's hand in the Arabic world, it means that they have a strong friendship and alliance. And when they're talking, that means specifically do not interrupt them. They're in the middle of an important topic. And when they're holding hands, having that topic, it's a signal for everyone else that interrupting them would be a no no. So that's why they're holding hands and walking and talking. Otherwise, if they're not holding hands and someone comes to Ahmed al-Shara or someone comes to the Emir of Qatar and gives them a message in the ear, that would be okay. But if they're walking, holding hands, and talking, that means do not interrupt. They have important things talking about. Uh, Although Arabic culture is very gay. That's one thing I'll give you. We can talk about something else later. Good morning. No stupid questions here. Where do you get your traditional clothes? Are they bought ready? Some clothes are ready made, but I'm bougie. I like to custom made my stuff and I'm fat. So a lot of stuff doesn't fit you unless you tailor it. So, bougie and fat. So it's always tailored. Some things are not tailored, like the hats. My fez hats are custom handmade by the last shop that makes them by hand with the oldest machines in Egypt. So that's kind of interesting. My wife wants to get you coffee cups. Oh, that'd be nice. Thank you. We'll talk about it. How reliable is the Iranian professor? You could always assume there's a lot. So the question is how reliable the Iranian professor Marandi. I want to make sure where he's located. Yeah, he's in Iran. So he is going to be combined. If he was in the United States or he was in a European country or a country outside the outside Iran, I would say he would have a little bit more freedom of speech. Even professors in Saudi Arabia who are considered to be like some of the best professors, or in the UAE or Kuwait or Qatar, they're all confined to the speech bylaws of the country. We don't have freedom of speech in these countries. You have to adhere to certain words. You have to say that the government is never losing. There's certain things that you cannot criticize. There's certain things that you cannot bring. So take it the grain of salt, but also take it as the Iranian viewpoint. It's important to know the Iranian viewpoint, and it's an opportunity to figure out what the Iranian viewpoint is. So that's why you go and read his stuff. This is blue amber. Someone is asking what kind of beads these are. These are supposedly Muslim prayer beads, but I like to fidget with, amber a lot of times. Feels nice on the hand, and after long use, it kind of creates a sweet smell scent to it. But this is kind of a rare blue amber that I haven't seen before, so I decided to get it. But yeah, if I had a lot of money, I would spend it on stupid stuff like this. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for tuning in. What? What percentage of the Middle East is pro IRGC? You could consider all the Shia, which is a good 40% of the Middle East. Yeah, I was right. Shia, Shia Muslims are make approximately 38 to 40%. See, I know. And you could see, I would say I would add another 10% to that. 50% of the Middle East is pro IRGC. The other percent, other 50 is either with half of it is with the, you could say also most of it is with the GCC nations. But then there's a good, there's some people in between who are like, are over the whole thing. But they're a very small minority. Smash the hearts. Yes, thank you. I have read two articles recently, one saying that the tribes in Jordan have asked the king to step down, another saying the tribes have asked MBS to be replaced. Both are true. I have written about the Jordanian tribes either in a news post, I think, asking the um, King Abdullah to step down and for his brother to take place, largely because he's lost the respect of the ruling tribes of the region. And they're not removing the monarchy, they're just asking change of leadership in the monarchy. And large part of that is because of how sidelined and pro America, pro Israel, the current president, the current king of Jordan is perceived to be. And that alone has been calling for his removal. I've heard of chatter about, tribes wanting, some tribes asking for the change of MBS. They wouldn't dare as much because MBS has his own security apparatus. He has hired people like from Blackwater and people from other security, third party security militias to be part of his security team. He shuts down any opposition voices, even within his family, with force and execution. And it's a little bit difficult, but even it does say a lot when the tribal leaders who are protecting the royal family come out and say, we're not that happy with the current decision making of the crown prince, and we would like you to put a different crown prince in charge. That is a possibility. We'll see. Let's see how that war continues. I'm still looking at it very closely, and we'll figure it out. Yeah, understanding tribal ways is not the easy thing. It was easy. It's not even easy for me. Waji, can you speak to the Saudi hierarchy? Someone wants to know about the Saudi hierarchy. So I spoke yesterday about how the Saudi royal family is considered to be the largest family in the world. Period. They have more than why not just look them up? Yeah, they keep it kind of secret, and they're keeping it low now. But last I checked was around 25 to 35,000. Some said in a book 50,000. The Saudi government likes to say they have 15,000. It's kind of interesting. I've seen different numbers over the years. So the whole point of knowing that they have a large number of family members. Well, hold on here. Yeah, the whole point of having such a large family member is that there is my point of mentioning that there is that number of family members is to express how much competition there is on the royal crown. So, especially from the older siblings, older family members, the current king is one of the last brothers immediate to the first king of Saudi Arabia. It would be a first if the king passed the crown from the father to the son without consulting the rest of the family. But it looks like that's what it will happen. Uh, the princes are divided into different levels. The prince, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman used to be level 5. He's now the level 1. Level 5, let's take a look. 3 levels. The general family, the general hierarchy, and then you got the political hierarchy because they like to have a lot of kids. Political hierarchy has a lot of sway and power and money. The rest might have businesses, might have diplomatic passport, might give professional preferable treatment than the rest of the Saudi citizens. And then comes the Saudi citizen as a second tier citizen. They don't have any say in governmental rules. They don't have any say in the day-to-day operations. They are considered, in effect, a subject and a property of the kingdom. And then below that, you got kafala workers who come in under a sponsorship system where the person who's sponsoring you essentially owns you, and you are, in some sense, depending on which country you come from. If you come in from Southeast Asia, there is a good likelihood that you will be, put into the modern slavery system and be used and abused in that manner, and that is the third level citizen. Kuwait is very, very open in their level of hierarchy and citizenship. They'll even in the citizenship they'll say this is rank one, rank two, rank three citizen. There's some ranking in the actual citizenship in Kuwait for some reason. And if you have been paying any attention to what I've posted, Kuwait has denaturalized around 3,000, 4,000 people within the last month or so because of this conflict, as they suspect many of the citizens they have denaturalized might have some connections to the Iranian government. As they discussed. Here, someone is asking, as disgusting as it is that all billionaires can take advantage of the situation to make money for themselves, how else would the Syrians be able to rebuild? How could anyone rebuild in a war-torn region like the Middle East without the help of these corrupt financiers? And you bring in a good point. The people who are in charge of the region is Saudi Arabia. We talked about the Saudi corruptions for years. I still need to write a paper about the Yamama deals with the UK and the corruption that went under there. I still haven't talked about how the Saudi government move money to lobby politicians in the US from bank to bank. There's a lot of corruption, Saudi corruption in the US. In the first Trump administration, the Saudi government was able to lease waterland from Arizona, a place where it's already dry and suffering from drought, and they sucked all the underwater in that ground and sent it to Saudi Arabia. Arizona had to cancel their contract with them. The Saudi government was causing acres and miles and miles and miles and miles of lands falling apart. They don't care about the US. They're just taking advantage. Yeah. Arizona had to kick them out. Saudi Arabia saw the Israeli lobby and said, we need to make our own lobby in the US. So they established their own lobby in 2015 or 2016. The biggest weakness in the US government is foreign lobbies lobbying inside the US, affecting your leaders, whether they're Democrats or Republicans. They both fall for it. It was recently a Democratic, or in the past few years, Democratic senator or representative got caught with all the bribes he'd been taking from Egypt over the years to make sure things go smoothly in the U.S. Congress or U.S. Senate, as the Egyptian government like. Look it up. Look it up. Go to Google. Right, Saudi Arabia is stealing Arizona water. It's been reported on. It's just not been reported on widely. I'm not covering it up. I'm just telling you about it. I Here, let me look it up for you. Why not? Uh-huh. The water taken from the USA refers to a decade-long controversy in Arizona where a Saudi Arabian dairy giant, Al Marai, thoroughly its subsidiary, found them out. Arizona pumped vast amount of groundwater to grow Saudi farms. The New York Times. That's the source. The New York Times. If there are good billionaires, they would spread their money around and not be billionaires. It's okay. You can be, 99,999 millionaire, but get rid of the billion. It's okay. I don't mind if you have 999 billion, but no one should be rich enough to buy social media accounts and social media software. No one should be rich enough to buy countries. Where are we at? Why do we have people rich enough to buy phone services, phone companies? They are rich enough to buy. Why? They're already fucking up our lives. I'm not saying don't be rich, but don't be a god. There needs to be some sort of accountability. One billionaire said it, and I forgot which interview. He said, guys, he was talking to other billionaires that were being interviewed. I have looked into this. He's had an awakening now. He said, if we don't give away our money, they will eat us. They will destroy us. We have to give away some. That's not me talking. That's a billionaire talking. He's admitting it. The more Here's the issue. Here's the issue. The more economic inequality we have, the more political polarization you will have. Wajeeh, how does that happen? Let me tell you. When economic inequality happens and people stop having to have time for themselves to relax, have time for themselves to create their own ideology. When you create an economic situation where you are constantly worried about your next bill, And if you miss a paycheck, you will be homeless. Then that person doesn't have the free time to grow their ideology, grow their thinking, grow their ability to do whatever else. So the more hungry they become, they stop being concerned about the reality around them and they get grounded in what they were raised in or their belief. And as more they grow grounded in their own belief, the more likely they are to blame the other side. And they are more likely to blame the other side, the more likely they are blinded to the issue that the reason they are poor is because the one that is rich is making sure that they stay poor. It's not a right or left, it is a classist issue. The more people are hungry, the more likely they will blame the other side. Here's the reason. You see those liberals? You see those MAGA people? Those are the people that are making me hungry. 3/4 of MAGA are hungry. They just fell under a cult ideology. And the thing about a cult that you have to understand, I lived in one, I grew up in one most of my life. It breaks your criticism factor, your critical thinking goes away once you become in a cult. You start having things that you will try to make sense of anything that doesn't make sense because you're in that cult. You have to believe in whatever you're believing. So each person finds their cult, each person finds their belief, and they start blaming the other side. Well, how do you break this? You make sure that you have and destroy economic inequality. To have a living wage in Kansas City 6 years ago, to have a living wage in Kansas City for 2 adults and 1 child, you need for one person to make $21 an hour. When I was fighting to raise the minimum wage, we were fighting to raise the minimum wage to $12, $13 an hour. What does a living wage mean? Living wage means that you pay your bills, you feed your kids and yourself, and you have just enough to have some sort of entertainment, but not too much. Living wage means you just make it by. Our federal minimum wage is still $7, $8 an hour. Board of directors for any company represent the shareholders. What is the shareholders? The person that holds some sort of stock or some sort of value in a company. What is the point of the board of directors? Is to make sure that the shareholder value only goes up. Okay. Without workers, where's the value of that company? That's not a communist or a socialist thing. Unions have always been part of the capitalist market. In fact, unions is how we stop child labor. Basic principle. Someone is telling me the government intervention in the market is a socialist or a communist thing. Who told you that? That's a misconception. That's called a Keynesian capitalistic ideology. A Keynesian economist is a capitalistic economist that believes that the market is sticky and requires a governmental intervention to make sure that the economy moves smoothly. Classical economists comes way before that. They're both gotten economic Nobel Prizes. No one can tell me that one is better than the other. But what the classical economist will say, that the prices are not sticky. They move up and down and they react to the market automatically. They also say trickle down economy works. The problem with that is not absolutely true. It's not absolutely true. Because when we were talking about trickle down economy, we did not have that much of a globalized economy. We were still under the invisible hand with Adam Smith and many of the basic ideas, and we were still starting with the global economy. It was just starting. No ship was as fast as ships today. No plane was as fast as planes today. No one could carry them out that we could carry. We were not integrated into the global economy as we are today. So the market had time to react from the news coming out to the news reaching. Today, the news is instant. So the market does not keep up. Prices sometimes end up getting stuck. What does the classical model also doesn't take into account is that when I'm a millionaire or a billionaire and I don't want to pay taxes, I have few options and I will take advantage of all of them. Trust me, I grew up well off. Met few people who are princes. I've met few people who are quite wealthy. First thing I do is if my company makes an amazing profit and I get a big bonus, that money I have two options to do it. I either buy stocks, my company stocks, I buy them back from the market to raise the value of my company, which allows me later on to go to a bank and borrow money against that company so I don't pay taxes when I sell my stocks. And when I get a dividend again, I can pay those loans off instead of having to sell any of my stocks and pay the government any taxes. So that way, when I take a loan, I don't pay any taxes on it. And the value of my company increases, the more money I can borrow. That's one way. The other way is I send my money abroad. Now, how's that money trickling down? When I'm buying my stocks back or when I'm sending my money abroad, how is the worker getting a pay raise? Another point, one person gets $40 million as a paid salary, sometimes $500 million as a paid salary, sometimes $1 billion as a yearly paid salary. And the average income of the employee in the company is $60,000. And they make sure to fire the senior employees first, so because they're paid more. What do they say? We're just shrinking down. We just made profit last year. What are you talking about? Where's my raise? No, you only get the 2% raise, the 1.6% raise. The inflation rate is 3%. What is 1.6 going to go to do for me? Prices are going up at a 3% rate, and your raise that you're giving me as an employee, as a monthly employee, as an hourly employee is 1.6. And the government wants taxes from me, and the state wants taxes from me, and the billionaire is not paying a penny. Jeff Bezos, for many years, have been paying zero taxes until today. He's been paying zero taxes. I'm not saying eat the rich. I'm saying pay your share. Take off the stress that we have. Why are you taking advantage of the best economy in the world while not providing the best economy of the world the resources it needs? It's as if you're planting a tree and stealing it from the nutrients it needs and wanting it to provide you with money. Why, Habibi, should I share with you more money? Basic principles need to be gotten. One person that deserves the ultimate respect, and I think that's why the Democrats have lost a lot of people. They never supported Bernie Sanders. They never gave him the respect he deserved. He's such a populist. He has all of our support, but the Democrats keep making sure he doesn't get to become the representative of the Democratic Party. The one person that has constantly looked for the working class, the one thing that kept America going for all of its life, the working class, the labor market, the slavery, all of the people who have been working with their feet and nails and tooth and bleeding, and they're the ones that have built America. We just get rich people and they're like, I worked so hard. I've been working 12 hours a day. Oh my goodness. Sitting in the office chair, getting paid $500,000 a year, getting $500,000 a month. I've been working so hard. Motherfucker, shut the fuck up. You working and getting $500,000 a month. He has maybe five assistants, two secretaries, a concierge, and a butler. And we're sitting here. Do you know that the rich people have something called concierge medicine or executive health or executive medicine? Your boy is in one of them because I have bad health and I go to the hospital all the time and I've been treated like shit. And then I found out about it. You have to pay like a membership of $5,000 a year or more, depending on the hospital. And then you get into a certain program. That program gives you priority seating. You come, you don't even, sometimes in the same day, you go see your doctor. You don't even wait 24 hours. Meanwhile, you are having to drive 3, 4 hours to find a therapist. What kind of hell? We have the best, we do have the best healthcare for the rich. We do have the best healthcare. We have some of the best equipment. We have some of the best hospitals in the world for the rich. Yesterday, I found out one of my best friends is too sick to have a kidney transplant. He's a black American. Too sick to have a kidney transplant. Even if I want to donate my own, he won't get it. That's the best healthcare system. Happens not to be a privileged white man with billions and millions of dollars. Next question. Let's see if I have any questions here. I don't see any other questions. I still need to call him. I just heard from another friend. But you know, he's a champ. He's a champ. This guy have seen shit that no one else has. When he was born, he was, you know, I'm not mentioning his name. I want to keep it very private, but I thought I saw shit when I was under threat of being kidnapped and I became homeless and applied for asylum and was starting over from the US from scratch. I thought I was seeing shit. He's one of my heroes. When he was born, he was left in a shoebox in an abandoned house. And if he didn't love me much, to explain that I was not the only one facing shit and the world is fucked up and that you can make it even if you have been born in a abandoned house in a shoebox. He was a business owner. He is a business owner, family man, helping grassroots organize, helping a lot with the prison system, especially when it comes to black people, finding lawyers for those who doesn't have lawyers, doing work with the ACLU and many other civil rights groups. And such a powerful, strong man, something like kidney failure mixing into all that. And you would wish that, you know, a system would honor someone like that. But I believe that many people are facing the same consequence that have been doing some same or similar things, gone through the same thing in the world. Anyways, I'm gonna give you guys. I'm gonna keep it private because I don't wanna reveal anything other than the actual story and how tragic it is for someone that has served his community all his life to be abandoned by the health system. Yeah. Any other questions? I want to know about placement, placement funds, investment. Do you know about these two and Trump's invest this way? Because so the Trumps are gonna invest with the expectations of having zero returns. A lot of times, like when Kushner received 2 billion, Kushner own company that finances the investment fund received 99% of its funds from Middle Eastern countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and Kuwait. And essentially, it was all bribes because they had the investment time period ends in a month or so, and they have had zero returns in the time period. So a lot of these investments are so-called investments, but they are bribes. I am going to, if someone comes to me telling me they want to apply for asylum, I'd tell them to go somewhere else. Thank you. Who wins? The rich, the ones that own military infrastructures, the ones that own the military weapons companies, like Honeywell. Honeywell has uh, the Honeywell, the same company that gives you the air filters that you have. They make the missiles, or they make the the bombs that the U.S. uses. GM, Ford makes the tanks. Boeing makes the airplanes. All of these owners, all of these are the ones benefiting. All of a sudden, we have lost years of our weapons pile, and we have lost some of our most important assets, like an AWACS, like many uh, drones in terms of spying drones or otherwise, F-15, F-35s, A-10. All of these planes are gonna have to be replaced, and the prices. Uh, I think they do make them here in the U.S. They do make them in Minnesota as well. Honeywell has a weapon manufacturer here in Minnesota, Minneapolis. And then, you'll have other companies that will take advantage of your airspace and, put a lot of pollution. I thought the US would have a lot of regulations regarding pollutions. There's a company here in the Twin Cities that, then in the state of Minnesota that, um, makes the roofing thing out of petroleum for the above the roof, and all of the chemicals are going in there, and we're breathing it. Where's the laws and regulations to stop them from pumping all of that smoke into our air? I don't know. And that's one of the most liberal states in the state in the United States. A lot of things happening under your noses. A lot of people think the state elections are not that important, but a lot of times they're more important than your national elections because state laws can prohibit things that federal laws can't. Your state official electives have more things that can affect your life than the federal elected officials. Just something to think about. If you could, if you think you could do better than your representative, run against them. Show them. If you're not seeing someone that's doing the job that you think it should be done, step up. Why not? As long as there is competition, the elected representatives will have to behave. You running for office is a form of check and balance. Take control. You're in charge. I know you're busy. I know it's really hard. I'm not asking everyone to run, but whoever knows their capability, do it. If there is no better solution and your kids are facing the danger, then it's you. Anyways, thank you for tuning in. If you like what I have to say, I would hope that you would consider to become a subscriber. If you are a subscriber and you cannot afford becoming a paid member, send me a message in the DM. Do not explain the situation. All I need to know is the email directly connected to your account, and I will gladly offer you a membership on the house. There's a lot of people out here trying to pay memberships for other people, and I do have a lot of nice people wanting to gift them away. So and they're helping me gift it away. So thanks to those who are donating, thanks to those who are joining. If you can afford to be a paid member, I would really appreciate it. It helps me do the work I do. Um, there could be a move on the horizon, and we'll keep you posted. Like, subscribe, and share, and make sure to join us next time. مع السلامة. باي باي وبالإنجليزي goodbye.